So we have a friend. Her name's Laura.
We haven't seen her in a very long time.
We don't know where she is.
She might have a child.
She might be married. We don't know.
We have no idea.
It's been years. My wedding, which was 2 years ago, was the last time I saw her.
Yeah, it's been a bit.
So her mom used to do Seders every year and would have like a bunch of people over. But her mom was really easygoing about it. Mm-hmm. Like, we had never been to one. Both Bree and I had never been to one. Everyone
was welcome, which was, I just love that because I'm not Jewish, so it was really fun to have a different kind of experience. I grew up Catholic, and I always really disliked the ritual aspect of it, but I really enjoyed the way that at least that family did the Seder because it was very inclusive and everybody had a part. Like, we had to read things and we had to sing. Everybody was encouraged to participate.
Yeah, it was fun.
It was really fun.
It was really fun. And the food. I love matzo balls. Oh, I love matzo balls. One time, were you with me when I made the giant matzo? So we just really wanted matzo balls, and I found like the package at like Target that you get, and you can make them yourself. And so I got it, but it didn't. There were no instructions.
Did this not work out?
There were no.
It worked out great.
Okay, it was great
because accidentally she made them. When she made them about the size that they are when the soup is done.
Not realizing that they expand.
Right.
They were giant.
They were huge.
That's amazing.
Huge.
They were super matzo balls.
So good because they were kind of like a little undercooked in the middle, which is what I like. It was nice.
They were great. I loved it.
I love matzo balls, and I like gefilte fish.
Mm-hmm.
Not very many people like that.
I loved all that, like the whole like dipping of the herbs and like it's so fun. And I sometimes get that song stuck in my head. Die.
Yeah.
Die.
I do too. To me, it was just a kind of. It was definitely more my style than Easter, I guess. Because for me, Easter was like never a fun one for me. And as a kid, I don't like candy. I didn't like candy as a kid.
What?
I did. I still don't. Like,
I'm so sorry.
Except for Mexican candy.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I do like. Yeah.
My sister's getting married in Mexico in
Is
early
she?
May.
Where?
Bring me back some candy in Mexico City.
Ooh, bring me back all the candy. I had a friend go to Mexico. He was visiting family there, and he came back, and he just brought me like all of this candy, and I was like,
nice.
Free meal, because Mexican candy tends to be a little more savory and sour and not sweet.
You get like the chili powder and like all these different flavors.
And salty. Mm-hmm. Salty candy.
Yep. They've got some good stuff down
there. So good.
Well, my girlfriend does a Seder every year, and I've never been to her Seder, which is a point that she keeps bringing up. I would like to point out that this is the first Seder that we will have been together, so I am going to this one. I'm doing my job, but I'm probably going to be helping her cook all day and stuff, and so that will be fun. And she's a great cook. She's such a good cook. We can never break up because I'll starve. So
that's dangerous.
It'll be fun. I'm excited.
That sounds awesome.
It's very like queer. You know, the whole thing is like all our queer friends, and it's like you were saying, super inclusive and everything. So
and it totally fits in with the actual message and theme of the Seder, which is like to remember that the Jewish people have been oppressed so many times for so long. Queer people have experienced similar oppression, obviously in different ways.
Yep.
But
and Jews and queer people and queer Jews are currently experiencing it all over again. So that's cool. Fun. Super prescient this year.
Oh yeah. So relevant.
I just want to apologize. I slurped into the microphone just now.
That apology is for my friend Laura, my college roommate who hates the sound of slurping.
Someone else pointed that out to me And I was just like, yeah, I get it, whatever.
It's a thing that drives a lot of people crazy.
Yeah. Well, when we volunteered at
The clinic.
LA Clinic for
LA
Choice.
for Choice.
LA for Choice. They are clinic escorts at
Family planning clinics.
Family planning.
Yeah.
When we met a guy there who was like so excited about our podcast and was like, as long as there's no slurping in it.
Oh my God.
And I was just like, well, I mean,
I get that.
I get it, but I'm not going to make any promises.
We're not going to stop drinking tea while we record.
It's also funny that for like a feminist discussion podcast, a man is like, I love this as long as you don't do this one thing that I don't like.
He kind of backtracked a little bit after that and was like, I'm so sick of white guy podcasts. I'm like, yeah, we all are.
Is he white?
Yeah. And he's just like, I'm so sick of white guy podcasts. I'm sure yours is great. I'm going to listen to it. And, it's fine if you're just getting started. And blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, okay. Like, whatever.
Stop talking. You're just making it worse. You were fine, and then the more you talk, the less fine you were.
He was definitely someone where... did you see the SNL skit at the bar?
Oh, yeah.
The woke white guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was definitely someone that I could see that happening with.
Oh, yeah.
If he's listening right now, hello, sir.
Oh, yeah, hi. Thanks for
listening. We shall slurp into the microphone.
This is for you.
Oh, that's so obnoxious.
Yeah. My mom's going to tell me not to do that again.
Sorry, Mommy.
It's okay. She always chews. She's always eating when I'm on the phone with her.
My mom does the same thing. Every time she's on the phone with me, she's eating.
My mom is too. And then I'm like, I know you're eating. What are you eating? She's like, I'm not eating. I'm like, I can hear you.
I'm like,
what?
You're mumbling. Why are you eating when you're on the phone with me?
I know.
Stop.
Do you need to eat? My mom's like, I need to keep my blood sugar. I'm like, shut up. No, you don't. No, you don't. Stop.
Mommy.
Oh, Mom.
Stop eating.
Oh, moms.
Mom.
So mommy.
So mommy.
Such a mom thing.
So today, right now, you're listening to SheSplain.
Woo woo.
Woo, with TL.
And Bree.
And
our very first official guest.
Yes, official.
Carrie Wade, who will introduce herself.
Hello. I'm Carrie Wade. The rumors are true. I am a staff writer at the intersectional feminist queer website, autostraddle.com. And I write a lot of disability-related coverage there. That's kind of my main beat these days, although I cover other things. And outside of Autostraddle, I'm sort of a professional disabled person. I do advising and, consulting for organizations that basically want to do better with talking to and about disabled clients, etc., without being clueless weirdos, which most people are about these particular issues. And, other freelance jobs. I'm also a librarian,
What? I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
Yeah, it's like the typical millennial thing of I have a million jobs. But professional disabled person is the one that made it relevant for me to be here. So I'm excited to be your guys' first guest.
We're excited to have you. You were the only we've had a lot of people come to us with suggestions.
Yeah, we're pretty popular.
We're pretty
We're
popular.
in demand.
And we're also picky because you're the only one that we're like, yes.
Wow. All right.
Oh yeah, if we're gonna give up part of our attention, because the whole reason we have a podcast is we love to talk.
Yeah.
It's gotta be for someone that we actually want to listen to.
We want people to listen to us.
Yeah.
So if we are going to have someone here, it's going to be someone that we want other people to listen to and that we want to listen to.
Exactly.
And
so
not
welcome.
just kind of there.
Well, I'm honored. Thank you.
We're honored to have you.
You should be.
Yeah, right?
That was my point.
This better be good.
Oh my god. Way to make her feel welcome.
I know. I put cinnamon in my tea, so now I'm
So now you're spicy?
spicy. Today we're going to be talking about femininity.
I thought we agreed we were going to make her say it because we're
Carrie,
both...
what are we going to be talking about today?
Femininity.
Oh,
I'm
so much
I
better at
cannot
that than I
say
am.
that word. It's so hard to say.
I got you. Don't worry.
Okay. we're going to just point.
Every time I
time.
want to say it, I'm just going to go.
Femininity.
Yeah.
She's already got it.
It's really hard for us to say. Why is it hard for both of us, though?
The double N's, I think.
I actually lied. It's not because of my job that you guys have me here. It's because you don't know how to pronounce a word that I can pronounce.
Yeah.
So
That's it.
it's just going to be a conversation between you, with me occasionally going, femininity.
Yes, thank you.
exactly.
Thank you.
The other day, I'm taking different types of classes, and we don't have to go into what the classes are because that's like a whole thing. But in this class, one of the girls was talking to me about how she feels like she isn't feminine enough to attract the type of man that she wants.
Ugh.
Yeah, it was an odd thing I also barely knew this woman, so
that's fun.
Yeah, it took me back a little bit. It was just like, oh, okay, we're gonna have this conversation.
How old was she?
She was 35, and she had been married twice and divorced, which is fine. Like,
right.
Yeah,
I find nothing wrong with that. But then when we were having this conversation, this guy that's also in the class kind of popped in and was just like, well, I think it's because, it's not that you aren't feminine. It's that you don't enjoy typical feminine things. Like, I enjoy typical feminine things.
okay.
And they had more of a relationship than she and I did. And so I'm just, like, Carrie's face right now is exactly what my face was.
Incredulous horror for those of you listening.
What did you say?
That face was... We'll take a picture and we'll post it on our Instagram.
Right. I'm going to do
Carrie's
it
face right
now. Wait, hold it. Hold the face.
Okay, so anytime a man just pipes up in a story uninvited...
He was uninvited.
I'm like... Whatever you're about to say, I don't want to hear it. Mm-hmm. It is very rare that a man makes an unsolicited contribution to a conversation between two women that actually advances the conversation.
Exactly.
Yep.
He didn't help. And he kept going on about how he was like, well, what's your favorite scent? And she's like, well, I tend to like tobacco scents and leather. Like, that's what I have in my house if you walk in, which I've never thought of scents as
being gendered.
Because
everything in our world is gendered.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Did he say those were masculine scents?
Yes. He said, well, that's very masculine. And then he was like, well, and you wear a lot of black. And as a person who wears black all the time, I was just like, what? I don't.
Your dress is black?
Yeah, my everything.
It's not a masculine outfit.
No, but it's black and there's like...
It's got flowers on it.
It's got flowers on it.
And it's also a dress.
Right.
What else did he say?
Is this a straight guy?
Yeah.
Was he like advising her as like a straight man?
Yes, as a straight man, he was advising her on the things that she likes, being quite masculine. And he's like, you also present yourself in a not very feminine way.
He just has like a bullet list of criticisms for this woman who was talking to you.
It's like you get the impression that he like has been waiting for the opportunity to give his advice on this.
Right? It was weird. And she's like this girl. She's this woman. I apologize, this woman, because she is older than me. I should not call her a girl.
Yeah.
This woman, she is like really petite. She's very petite. She's always dressed very well. Mm-hmm. Way better. I'm intimidated by the way she looks because she's always very well put together, and she does hair for a living, and so her hair is always like
amazing,
on point and beautiful, and her nails are always done. And I've never thought of her as not being totally feminine, because when I look at her, she's just so like beautiful, and I'm like, oh, look at you.
The sad thing is that she thinks that she's doing something wrong because she's not attracting a certain type of man, whereas maybe there's something wrong with the type of man she's...
And then this guy feels like it's his place to come along and confirm that, to be like, that fear is not unfounded. Let me explain why.
Thanks for being so fucking helpful.
Right, and this like 5-part diagram that I've been waiting to pull out for you.
Yes, you're right. You are doing something wrong.
And here's what it is.
Oh, it was really gross.
Love me. That's gross.
It was disgusting. And then, this was the worst part, the entire class, which was like 20 people, got in on it.
Oh, no.
They all got in on it. And even the teacher was like, yeah, you just need to put out more feminine energy. And
what is wrong with these people?
I felt like I was in the Twilight Zone. I was the only person sitting there just like, why are we saying these things? So
I wish I could have seen you.
I was...
Did you look like I looked?
I looked like you. Yeah. And
you did see her. This is how she looked.
What is that? What? And it was so ridiculous that I started laughing a little bit because it was just one right after the other where I'm like, this has to be a joke.
I do that a lot.
Oh yeah, when you're uncomfortable, you laugh.
Oh yeah,
right.
I definitely
do the same thing.
When I'm faced with an incredulous situation, especially with something like this, I'm just like,
because it's ridiculous. I felt like it couldn't be real or happening, and I'm like, this is not real.
You got punked.
That's kind of what I
yeah,
thought
maybe it's
for a
one of
minute.
those game shows where they see how long you can tolerate the atrocious thing that they're doing. And if you make it to like a minute, you win.
Oh.
Guys, new reality show idea.
Right? I think there was a show. It was
Like-
called like Boiling Point or something.
God.
Oh yeah. I remember
Maybe
that.
you were on Boiling Point. Maybe they
Okay,
brought it back.
let's combine Boiling Point and What Would You Do, and make a shit like.
Can we talk about what would you do for just like a second?
Yeah.
Just a second. I am always in kind of excitement and fear
That you're
I'm
on it?
on What Would You Do? Always.
Do you think the election was just one really elaborate what would you do
And
episode?
John Quinones is going to come out of the, like, somewhere and just be like,
Oh no.
you handled that situation very well.
America. Let's
America.
grade how you did
Oh, God.
over the past few months.
Oh, man.
Oh no.
Also,
Oh,
my
no.
mom is, like, huge fan of What Would You Do? And the terrified part of me is that I'm going to be walking down the street, and I walk with like headphones on, headphones in, not really paying attention to all of my surroundings, and I'm not going to see something or hear something that I should have seen or heard. I'm going to walk right past, and my mom's going to see me on television walking right past some situation that I should have inserted myself into.
Yeah.
That's my fear. That's a fear of mine.
I don't think that would happen because they make them really obvious. Like they're very noticeable.
Not anymore.
Really?
Yeah. It used to, a lot, like, when it first started, it was like, this woman's yelling about her daughter doing this in front of this person. And then the woman's like, you can't eat that cake. And it was quite ridiculous and over the top where you're just like,
Can't eat that cake.
I'm pretty sure that was an episode. I'm just,
I mean, we've all been there.
yeah.
Don't try to stop me from eating the cake,
Yeah,
you
right.
guys.
Take the cake.
Well, as a woman, it's such an interesting balancing act to be out on the street and figuring out how present you want or need to be in your surroundings.
It is.
Because I take public transit a lot, and there's part of you that's like, I want to just stick these earbuds in my ears and like never come out because I would rather not engage with whatever people are trying to say to me. And I have one of those faces where people really want to sit next to me on the bus or the train. They just feel like they can, And I used to be too nice to brush people off. Now I'm a lot better. I don't have resting bitch face, and I never will, but I'm a lot better at just like shutting people down and making it very clear that I don't want to talk to them, which has been extremely empowering, and I highly recommend it. But it's so weird, especially, certain times of day, like if it's dark outside, stuff like that. You're like, I don't want to be engaging with whatever's going on, but also for safety reasons, like, do I need to be vigilantly aware while I'm on this subway platform? And it's the type of internal calculus that you talk to any of your male friends, and they're just like, oh, what?
What are you talking about?
Like, I never thought. Yeah, and it's like, of course I do.
Yeah.
Like I have to leave my friends' apartments. Like if I take the train there, I have to leave before it gets dark so that I can be home by the time it's dark.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know?
because you want to be aware, but also not so like engaged with your environment that you're not welcoming, but you're seen as welcoming some kind of interaction.
Right.
Because if you're out, like you're looking around and you're like looking at people to see what's going on around you, some people, all they need is eye contact to think that that's an invitation.
Right.
But it's not. I mean,
right. Like a large scale version of that guy interjecting himself into that conversation and then bringing the entire class into it when that wasn't ever asked for.
It
Right.
wasn't.
Right.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
That's horrifying.
It was horrifying. That whole situation, and it just kept going. And the only thing that I could do was turn to her and I'm like, "You and I will talk after this, but no one here is right.
Yeah.
No one here is right." And because she was asking me, she wasn't asking anybody else.
The world.
Yeah, she wasn't asking anyone. And another thing that somebody said was that like she needed well, I mentioned the teacher said that she needed to put out more feminine energy.
Mm-hmm. What does that even mean?
I don't know. I don't know what that means.
Isn't the point of energy that your energy as a person is just like one way? I'm not one of those energy lesbians, so I don't know.
Well, I don't know. The way I think about energy sometimes is like, so this thing that I've done in yoga before is like something to do with like the different sides of your brains. It's like one is slightly more masculine, one is slightly more feminine, and you do alternate nose breathing to activate the different parts of your brain because the oxygen, so that the oxygen goes to both sides, so that you're more balanced. So I think about it in that way, but like I don't know how you would control making your energy outwardly to other people more feminine. I mean,
I don't know why you would.
Yeah, if we're talking about it in like not like in a crazy like spiritual way that it's just kind of bullshit, but
I mean, it's also important to mention that the gender binary is like a collectively agreed upon fiction. Right. It's like only because we invest in this thing that it's real. But
yeah, well, I mean, I think, well, this is an interesting point because I kind of like to look at feminine and masculine as separately from what it means to be a man or a woman, and but I know that they're so ingrained that it's really difficult to do that.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think if we can separate it, it's not a bad thing to look at things as masculine and feminine. And maybe this is a good point for us to talk about what does that mean to us, like, or to us personally and to society, because why can't we separate those things? Like, it's clear that there is no direct connection.
Right. I mean, I think queer people do a very good job of kind of problematizing that equation, right? Just being like, this thing does not equal this thing.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think what's really interesting about, you know, I'm not putting out a feminine enough energy, and then people being like, yeah, it's like, what do you mean when you say that? What do you really mean? You know what I mean? Because I think femininity and masculinity too, but since, you know, femininity is the topic of our episode, like it is a stand-in for a lot of other things that people are sort of afraid to actually name and articulate. You know, it's like, what do you mean that you're not like docile and subservient? Like, you know, for example, right? That's just one kind of thing that gets associated with femininity that doesn't actually have a gender, but it's because we've invested so hard in the idea that like subservience is a feminine trait. For instance, is that what you're really saying that you don't do enough of? Because if so, that's some bullshit.
Oh, yeah.
You know? So, but it can just, it's this thing that everybody is like, oh, you know, you're just not feminine enough. But they're really saying all these other things. You know, it's like sexist workplace language when they're like, you just don't have the business sense. It's like, what the fuck does that mean? You know, like stuff like that. You know, the way that people talk to women in this like coded way. You
Absolutely.
know? It can just get loaded with all these different meanings.
Yeah, that's the problem with it. It's like, it doesn't have, like, it would be nice if we could have, like, I know the whole reason we have feminine and masculine as like terms is we're grouping together characteristics in a way, because that's what humans do, is we like to categorize things so we can talk about this. It's about communication, and that makes sense, but it's very limiting at the same time. Anything that is a result of our human quote need to characterize things is almost always going to be limiting to some people, right?
Yeah. No.
Okay. So then what does it mean to be feminine for you? Let's go around the table and each of us will say it.
Okay. So I thought about that this morning because I did my research very last minute today.
Yeah, me too.
My research for this episode is literally just living my life.
Yeah.
So I understand.
That's brilliant. I mean, we can't fact check it, which is great because we don't do that anyway.
Perfect.
We don't.
So this morning I was thinking about that, and I had a really hard time trying to figure out, like, to put into words what it means to me. And I felt myself battling with these really gendered ideas And that was like a internal struggle I had this morning trying to figure that out. This is what I wrote down, trying to make sense of it. I wrote not aggressive or violent, which is problematic because I'm defining it by what it's not, which is how we define feminine things in general.
Right.
Anything, like we define women by what they're not all the time. So sorry, that's problematic. I recognize that. Kind, heartfelt, thoughtful, soft. And I do think I don't think I quite got there with taking the gender out of it, but I do think those are all descriptions that you could apply to a man or someone that doesn't conform to a binary gender construct.
There's your sociology points for the day. Nice job.
Thank you. Check that off the list. As if we have a checklist that we're going down.
No, we don't. We don't fact check. We don't have checklists.
Yeah. I mean, but here's the thing is like we have to be able to talk about things, and I can say how I feel, but also recognize that there's so much cultural shit that's going into the way that I think about these things. And it's so hard to separate them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What about you?
I think that I've always, and this probably is kind of just a little more how I grew up, was I've based feminine and masculine on traits of parents. Mm-hmm. So for me, feminine was more of like a mother, like what you think of when you think of someone who's like very motherly. So it is soft.
But that can vary too for people, right?
It is, but I always assigned feminine to not my mother, but to my mother's friend. His name is Ron, because he had those traits and they were stronger than what my mother had. Mm-hmm. And my mother, I've always looked at her as more masculine than what other mothers were.
Yeah, my mom too.
Yeah, my mom's always had that.
Do you think that has something to do with the fact that your mom was a single mom?
I definitely think that part of it has to do with that. But then, like, I guess with my dad, like, I don't assign anything to him. Like, I'm just like, you're just this... I don't think of him as masculine or feminine. Mm-hmm. But definitely growing up, that's kind of how I had assigned masculine and feminine, was through these two people. And my mom's friend Ron, who is just very like soft and light and supportive and nurturing. And not saying that my mom isn't any of those things, because she definitely is, but that's what I thought of as feminine. And then my mom, who was masculine, was just like, so she's more of a she's not a leader, she's kind of more in control of the situation.
Yeah.
And is a little more strict, I guess. And so, like, that's what I've always assigned masculine and feminine. But I also don't think about it that often, and I probably should think about it more than I do.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting so far that we've mostly just been talking about, like, not physical aspects of what that means, because that's... I mean, if we're looking at the real world, that's how a lot of people talk about.
It's physical. Oh,
it's
definitely.
Physical, but I think it's so much more than that.
I do too.
And one thing I forgot to mention before is the I think I also see femininity as...
Good job.
Thank you. I've been working on it. The feminine is more intentional and observant and aware.
Yeah.
More aware, and masculine is more egocentric and maybe less aware of things outside of yourself.
Oh yeah, I can definitely see that.
Do you agree?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, I think it's interesting that I am your guest for this topic because, I'm a more masculine of center presenting woman. I strongly identify as a woman, but I am not a feminine appearing woman in a lot of traditional ways. And it's been a very long road to arrive at the way that I look now, right? As is true for a lot of kind of gender nonconforming in their presentation people, right? It's like a very intentional choice, series of choices that you had to make. But I think that the feminine trait, the classically feminine trait that I identify with most is the caretaker aspect of things. And it's funny that you should bring that up about your mom, because my dad was always the stay-at-home parent, right? And the way that I describe him to people a lot is like, my dad's very non-toxic. You know, his masculinity is very non-toxic because it's centered around having been a stay-at-home parent and kind of the central caretaker for his 2 daughters, right? And so he's in this house full of women and his wife is the breadwinner, and he's like never had a problem with it. And he was always the one picking us up from school and doing all those like traditionally mom things. And my mom was like kicking ass and taking names at her office, right? Yeah. And so I think I came to identify with the caretaking part in part through my dad. And my mom is an amazing caretaker too. Like, I'm not going to call my dad when I'm sick. I'm going to call my mom. You know what I mean? Like, she has it. And she certainly can show it. But I think that because of the time that I spent around my dad and the things that he saw me experience as the stay-at-home parent, like, you know, being disabled growing up, like, if you have the resources, you'll probably have a lot of major surgeries, for example, which is like a thing that I went through as a kid. Most people do not go through that, right? And not at that age. And my dad was always there to like make sure that, you know, my like wound dressings were changed or whatever. You know, that's a little gross, but like it's true. You know, he's like helping with the recovery process, and he's basically like a nurse in that, you know, and we experienced that together. And I think that I have always been the type of person who is compulsively helpful. Like, I really just want to make sure like everybody's happy. And, you know, like whenever my girlfriend stays over at my house, like I'll make breakfast for us, and, you know, like I'll do her laundry for her just because like it's nice. It's like a nice favor, you know, and those sorts of things are associated with, you know, as feminine traits, right? But I don't appear feminine, you know, so it's like weird to people sometimes that I'll like do the laundry, I'll do the dishes, I will make breakfast, I'll like clean the house and, you know, whatever. And people are just like, oh, haha, like, how weird. You know, I would have never thought. And I'm like, is it because I cut my hair off that you don't think I know how to wash a dish? Are you serious? You know, like, and it's just so interesting, the things, it's like you guys were saying, the things that are physical traits and then, like, what's assumed about your behavior based on those traits, right? Like when people ask you, like, who's the man?
Do people ask you that?
No, thank God. But I mean, I've definitely had like people kind of insinuate like we want to know who's dominant in the bedroom. Not even like in your lives.
Invasive.
Right. I'm just like, why do you care so much? Like, I can 100% say with certainty, gay people do not give a shit what straight people are doing in bed. Like, we are not curious. This is not a thing. You know? And it's like, why do you keep asking me this? Like, you know, asking me, nobody has yet said, like, so who's the man? But there's definitely been, like, people trying to get at, like, that very private information.
Well, it's like they're trying to define your relationship in heteronormative terms. Is really what they're doing, aren't they?
Right. It's like the point is there is no man. That's
I
the point.
We should probably just explain what that means for anyone that doesn't know what heteronormative. Would you like to explain?
Sure. I mean, it's one of those giant, you know, 100-point sociological feminist words.
It's a scary word.
Yeah, for sure. But it's basically this idea that heterosexuality, straight relationships are the norm, and anything else that isn't that is somehow deviant and therefore needs to be investigated. And
thank you, Dictionary Carrie.
Right, there you go.
Carrie.
You're welcome.
Isn't that cute? It rhymes.
You can bring me back other weeks if you want me to explain.
We're just going to, after this, record you defining like a whole bunch of terms, and then we'll just insert them.
Sounds
we have
good.
to be very monotone.
Right.
So people can tell that we've just inserted.
Yeah, we sound like Siri.
I watch a lot of PBS. I'm very used to the, like, you know, very even keel.
I love that.
Yeah. Anyway, so, I mean, as somebody who, like, got invested in, you know, this kind of normative idea of what it means to be a girl and what it means to be a woman, but never really felt like that was right for me, you know, it has been a very conscious thing you know, in terms of my appearance. Again, I have always very much felt like a woman. But in terms of how I looked, I understood like, oh, this is how it's supposed to be. So I'm going to play this game because this is the thing that people expect from me. And I think disability too gets tied up in that a lot. I can like go on that soapbox whenever you want.
Well,
but,
yeah, I mean, how does that affect the way that you present yourself as a woman?
Sure. So as a kid, I was like such a tomboy. You like look at pictures of me as a kid and you're like, yeah, that kid's gay for sure. And you know, it's even funny that that's something that you can say.
You can say that because
right,
it's you.
Right, about like tomboyish girls, you know, because they're not always gay, you know, but then if somebody is, you can look back, hindsight is 20/20, right? And you're like, yes, obviously, right? And mine, you know, my sister was never a super classically feminine person either, and she's still not, but she's extremely, I'm like convinced heterosexuality exists because of my sister. You know, everybody's like, oh, everyone's a little queer, and I'm just like, well, like my sister, if this was a thing, trust me, it would have happened, like for sure. But anyway, so, you know, I was very much more comfortable in clothes that were like from the boys section, you know, whatever that means. And my parents, to their credit, were like, wear whatever you want. You know, they never tried to put me in something that I didn't feel good in. And they were just like, make your own decision. Mm-hmm. So I did. And I shopped in the boys department forever. And then I got to like middle school, especially like early high school. And I think that I went through that thing that a lot of girls go through at that age where you like feel like you've done something wrong. You know what I mean? Because all of a sudden like you have to be hot and like you're still a kid.
You're like 12 and you're like, how do I be more sexy?
Yeah, exactly. It's so weird. And like at this point, you know, I didn't know that I was gay, and I didn't know that it was a thing. You know, I knew that like gay people in the abstract existed, but I didn't really know what that meant, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, this is all while I'm like fawning over my like middle school best friends and like listening to their problems until like 3 a.m. on the phone. So like obviously there was a lot that was like happening, but I hadn't connected.
Well, that's pretty young. I mean, everybody, I think people develop their sense of sexuality on a personal level at different ages. Yeah. And I mean, that's pretty early.
Well, I didn't get it until I was like 16.
Yeah.
So it took a while.
That's not crazy that you didn't know that.
Right. For it to like settle in. But anyway, the point being that I sort of switched over into kind of this more traditionally feminine presentation. Like I had longer hair. I didn't ever really feel great in dresses, ever. And I think part of that is just because I have cerebral palsy, so my body is kind of shaped a certain way. My posture is a certain way. And wearing dresses just never felt super comfortable to me with the way that my body moves. Mm. And so nobody really like questioned the fact that I never wore that stuff. But I think that, you know, okay, so here's the soapbox portion of the exercise. I think it's very tempting. Yeah, it's very tempting for people to not kind of ascribe any sort of gender identity or sexuality to disabled people at all. It's sort of like we exist in this like desexualized category entirely because it's very uncomfortable for people to consider us in any sort of sexual situation or having sexual feelings. And I think part of that is just like general fear and phobia and disgust. And also I think part of it is people never quite get out of the habit of seeing us as like kids. You know, like it's very easy for people to be like, oh, it's so great that you're doing that, you know, just treat you in this very patronizing way. Oh. And it, you know, you don't want to sexualize a child. So if you equate disabled people to like overgrown children, which is the easiest way for a lot of people to relate to us, that's like the most comfortable for them, then of course you're not going to think about us in like as like sexually autonomous people, right?
I never thought about it that way, but that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
So it's all false, obviously, but it's because people don't really want to confront these assumptions about like, why do you think this about me? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, why do you assume that because my body is a certain way that is not like yours, that I'm not ever going to grow up and I'm not ever going to be independent? And, you know, like disabled kids are cute. Disabled adults are scary. You know, they like make people uncomfortable. So like there's a certain, you know, that's like sort of the mainstream attitude is that like, oh, you can like pity a disabled child, and then as a disabled adult is just like unsettling and you're not entirely sure what to do with us. So all that is to say, I think that I as a way to like assert myself as like an adult person. Like I wanted to prove that I knew what it meant to look like a woman. You know what I mean? Because like it's like the lady in your class. It's like, oh, I'm having trouble being taken seriously in this arena that I want to be taken seriously in because I don't look like a woman is supposed to look, or I don't act like a woman is supposed to look.
Yeah. You internalize and you think that you have to be the one to change.
Right, exactly. It's your job, right? And so I took that on, and I like was definitely a lot more feminine like all through high school and college. And like even my first relationship, like I really had my first serious relationship was when I was presenting that way. And I often thought about that at the time. I was like, is it because I like do my makeup now and stuff? Like, you know, it always felt awkward to me. I was like, this is not who I am. Like, I'm not loving this, but like clearly it's working, you know, which is weird. And so it was sort of like, I felt like there was sort of these competing forces of like my feminine presentation and like my disability, which was this like disgusting thing that nobody, including me, really wanted to deal with in any way. And obviously,
so do you think it made you more palatable to people?
I think so. I mean, even if it didn't.
I mean, I'm putting that in quotes because that's a really gross way to look at it.
Sure.
I know that, but
no,
I don't know how else to say it.
for sure. That's the word that I would use too. And I think, yes, but even if other people didn't see it that way, that's how I saw it. And so that's what matters, right? And so once I kind of made peace with the disability aspect, and I was like, I shouldn't walk around being ashamed of this all the time, and it's kind of fucked up that I have this viewpoint on it. You know, I'd never be this ashamed of being queer. You know, I wouldn't be like, oh yeah, like we're funding, you know, research for cures for this thing. Like, you know, and people say that about homosexuality and you're like, whoa, that's not a thing. You know, like that's super troubling, you know, but like for disabilities, everybody's like, oh, find a cure. And, you know.
That reminds me of the article that you wrote about how you want your partner to treat you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that you were saying that it's something about you. It's not.
Right. Yeah, I see it as an identity and not a diagnosis, which is an increasingly popular view among disabled people, but still widely unknown.
And very uncomfortable for people that aren't.
Right, exactly. It's like, oh shit, I've been doing this wrong, right? And so like the more that I sort of moved into that kind of like affirmation, identity-based understanding, I didn't feel the need to kind of put on this like gender show for people that I didn't feel comfortable with. And I was like, I'm trying to cover up my body and make it, like you said, more palatable to people that I like don't care about.
Yeah.
So why am I doing that?
That's also part of growing up, is whether you're able-bodied or disabled, is that when you, well, some people don't, but a lot of people, you get to a certain age and you start to realize that the opinions that you care about get a lot fewer.
Mm-hmm.
And more specific.
For sure.
Yeah, for sure. When I was growing up, my mom like had short hair, like very short hair.
Yeah.
She never wore makeup, and like even now, like her eyebrows are just like, I wish I had her eyebrows actually because they're huge.
Mm-hmm.
They're just like huge and full.
And that's very in now.
It's very in now, but you know, when I was a child, it wasn't like, and
right.
My sister, I think her way of rebelling against that, because my sister's like so good, like she doesn't do anything that's really bad ever, but her way of rebelling against that was to be more feminine.
Mm-hmm.
And she looked at it as, I don't think she looked at it, but I looked at it when I would see her as like a rebellion, like, oh, my sister's so cool. Like, look at how feminine she is. And like, when I say feminine, I mean like all of the typical things that you would think of. So like my sister wore a ton of makeup and she had like this long hair and like she was beautiful. And I'm 8 years younger than her. And everyone responded very well to her looking like that, because I feel like it happened overnight, you know. And that kind of happens to like most girls when you're growing up and women when you're growing up, where like all of a sudden you kind of decide who you want to be a little bit, and then you make that change. And when you make that change, people look at you that way from that point on. And so people were looking at her as like a very feminine, beautiful, like little Latina girl, and they would comment on it all the time. And they were always coming up to my sister and just telling her how beautiful she was. And like, your long hair, your long brown hair is so gorgeous. And so as a kid, my sister and I do not look alike even a little bit. I've always been taller than her, and I'm 8 years younger, so I've always been taller and just like bigger. She's very tiny, and I have like naturally very curly, like crazy outrageous hair, and I just felt so like awkward around this woman that I'm standing next to, who's like my older sister, and I'm looking up to her, and everyone's telling her how beautiful and feminine she is, that I felt like that was the change I was supposed to make when I grew up. And it, like, she didn't want that for me, obviously. Like, that was her way of rebelling against, like, our mom, who was doing nothing wrong.
Right.
Like, my sister was being a teenager. But I just, like, that was my first real glimpse into that world of, like, that you look at what you're doing for yourself. You're so beautiful. This is so good. Look at all this positive feedback you're getting. Because I never saw it with my mom. And even with the other women, the older women in my life, I didn't see it with them either, because they were sort of similar to, I mean, like, you surround yourself with people who are similar to you. So all of my mom's friends were, like, very similar to her, and they all, like, never wore a stitch of makeup or talked about anything like that. Yeah. And so my sister was the first one who was like that. And it's really interesting to me that when I saw that as a teenager, I was like, okay, well, this is my next step. And then I did it. And I actually love all of those things. But it took me a really long time to figure out why I loved them for myself.
Yeah.
And so I had this whole, like, streak where I was like, yes, I love makeup. I love, like, hair and clothes and fashion. And then it felt bad to like those things. Yeah. It felt really bad.
Well, that brings us, I think, to one of our other talking points, which is the anti-feminine.
You did it.
Anti-femininity.
But that attitude.
Am I saying it right? I feel like Finding Nemo when I say it.
Anemone.
That's how I feel when I say it.
You were both right both times.
But that attitude that is basically puts down things that are traditionally feminine and girly.
Yeah.
Things that are pink and soft and fluffy. I have things to say about that. I know you do.
I'm not going to.
Things that are pink and fluffy?
Things that are pink.
Pink. What do you have to say about pink?
Okay. So I think I've brought it up before, but it really bothers me, and we have since worked this out. But when my husband and I first started dating, he picked up pretty quickly that I was a feminist, and trying to impress me, told me a story about how when his sister is also 8 years younger than him. And so he had a big effect on her growing up. And when she was born and when she was growing up, he would not allow her to like anything that was pink or anything that was stereotypical for a girl at the time. And when he told me that, I lost my shit. I was like, what? How?
Because it's the opposite swing.
Exactly.
Of the pendulum.
It is.
But it's still telling women how to be.
I think what bothered me the most was that it was still something that was impressive to, like, he felt like
he thinks you're gonna get, like, pat him on the back.
Yeah, like he was still very impressed with himself at the time. And this was 5 years ago or something. I don't know how long we've been together. That's really but that really bothered me, and that's always kind of bothered me, and that's why I felt icky when I was growing up, liking makeup and liking dresses, because I felt like that was wrong. That was that was like the early 2000s when I started discovering that, and then like later on, that was like you and I were discussing earlier, that was a very popular idea at the time.
Is like to be, well, I mean, I think it was a progression from like the 80s with the power suits and the shoulder pads and the women being more present in the workplace and having to, instead of define their place in the workplace in a new way to try to fit into what already was existing.
Right.
So it was how do you fit into a masculine environment, and it's to change yourself and to become more masculine, to be looked at in that way. And I think that that evolved a little bit more, and those women were raising children and raising those children to kind of go the exact opposite. Okay, well, it's the problem is, well, I mean, there's so many problems with that, but it's like you can't.
It has to be a two-way street. You know, that's the thing that's always struck me about that argument, especially in the workplace. You hear it all the time of women having to adopt male qualities, quote unquote, to succeed, right? And success itself is defined as like a male pursuit, right? And like, why is it that we always have to go to them and they can't come to us? You know what I mean? And it's like this sort of thing where it sort of devalues all of the contributions that you're making to the workplace that aren't those predetermined, valued things that have just been in place for hundreds of years. You know, and it's like, well, now we could like talk about how capitalism ruins everything. You know, like this has been like the thing since the Industrial Revolution, right? Like that's a very, very long course of history to try and alter. Like I understand why people are like, nah, you know, we're not going to try to do that. And, you know, of course, if you're benefiting from, you know, this is like sociology 101. Like if you're benefiting from the way things are, of course you're not going to want to change it.
But that's the thing though, is that this attitude, it hurts men too though.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like just sexism in general, we as feminists know that. That's something that's something that is maybe not talked about as much, but feminism is meant to benefit everyone. Toxic masculinity, how many other like buzzwords can I throw in there?
Right. I mean, feminism is about choice, right? So like providing everybody the largest amount of choices that they want to make, you know? And I think that is like the thing that has always kind of rubbed me the wrong way, both about like not just, you know, compulsory femininity, there's another one for you, but compulsory masculinity as well. Like that doesn't suit a lot of people. That's also like a fake thing that isn't like super great for anybody that has to invest in that. And like, I mean, you look at our dear commander-in-chief as like the number one example, the most toxic example of what those sorts of attitudes can do to another human, you know, like that's wild to me, you know. But also the stuff like you were saying about how, you know, not liking anything pink, as if that's like the progressive position, as opposed to like giving a girl or a boy or any child anywhere on the gender spectrum a full, you know, arena of choices to make. Like that's the thing that you should do. Present them all as equally valuable and let the kid choose. Yeah. As opposed to like, if you want to be a forward-thinking 6-year-old, you should go play baseball. You know, it's like that's not how, you know, that's not how it should work.
It continues the devaluing of feminine things.
Right.
Feminine characteristics, feminine things.
And it encourages other women to not just like feminine things, but it encourages women to like look at another woman and devalue her in general, and not just like, oh, you like pink, gross, but like, oh, there's something about you as a woman that I shouldn't like.
Anything that is turning women against each other is not progressive and not feminist, and we can all agree is not helping.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
I mean, but to agree. Just kidding. Now that we're all in agreement, I was just kidding. I do agree. That's where we're going to end this episode. Next week, we will be back with another episode, part 2 on
femininity.
She did it. She did.
Nice one.
You're welcome.
She got it. Bree, you have anything you want to leave us with?
Rate, review, and subscribe. Find us on the social medias. We're on Instagram, kinda Twitter, and Facebook, and we're also on Google Plus.
Yeah.
Which nobody else is.
No, we have one person who is following us on Google Plus.
Do we really?
Yeah, he wished me a happy birthday on my personal Google Plus page.
Okay, that's a bit weird.
It was.
Oh, okay. So don't follow us on Google Plus, please. But find us on Facebook, Instagram, at SheSplain Podcast.
Social medias. Once we hit 500 followers on Instagram, we're gonna do a giveaway.
Oh yeah, we're
we don't
real
really
close.
Have that many people, yeah. Maybe we'll make it 550.
Oh,
we'll see.
And check our website because we're gonna have merch up soon.
Yeah, we put some stuff together,
including
stuff.
Our super awesome favorite T-shirt that says "Cinnamon Rolls, not gender rolls," and it has a picture of a cinnamon roll on it.
Yeah, that's from Matt B Design.
Are you gonna call him that? Your husband?
That's his design company.
Love it.
So you guys are into that.
Hashtag marriage with benefits.
Yo. All right, we're going now. Oh, wait. We didn't say anything about Dolly Parton.
Wait, we can do it in the next episode.
Oh, okay. We're going now.
Love ya. Bye.
Bye. SheSplain.